1. Ode to the Party. Daisy pointed to her brother, immersed in an animated and intellectual conversation. Hunter's strange voice boomed. Daisy did not feel drawn to him, in fact, the opposite. Dangerous? He ignited something in Tim, something she had never seen in him before. I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity to anyone, but they've always worked for me. The table laughed. Shuffling in his pocket, Hunter pulled out a mirror, unfolding a square of magazine paper filled with fine white powder. With a razor blade, he carved out thin lines, then rolled up a $20 bill. And in honour of Jackson himself, he proclaimed, snorting a line up each nostril. Janice rose automatically from her snoozing slump, followed suit and pushed the mirror to Isaac. You know I was stuck with the myth that only black people have soul. Because people don't let themselves feel things, she teased, lifting her glasses to meet Isaac's wide, dilated eyes. May I? He gestured to the powder. Be my guest. Isaac placed one end of the rolled banknote into his nostril and took a deep snort, drumming his fingers against the table. Cocaine running through my veins. Tim grabbed the note and drew so hard he snorted up 2 lines in one go. Greedier than pigs. More booze. Hunter laughed and emptied the bottle's contents into his gaping mouth. Daisy saw Tim taking the drug but had no idea what it was. She observed how the people who had taken it all started to talk louder, faster, and with great intensity. Isaac and Tim were on fire, the snowy snort igniting their confidence, turning the volume up on their antics. The fun only begins when the shit starts to go down, Hunter laughed, refilling his cigarette holder. His world quickly began consuming then. Show us what you've got then, slamming his hand loudly on the table, signalling everyone to pull out their drugs. Daisy tapped Tim's shoulder. He shrugged her off. He'd never done that before. She wanted to be offended, but wrapped her arms around him from behind. Rigid whole shoulders softened some. Hey, Daisy, he said loud and fast. The others barely acknowledged her before returning to their accumulating pile of drugs. Tim laid out his tabs, weed and his father's silver flask, another family relic Daisy was surprised to see. Isaac offered his hefty pouch of weed. Hunter revealed a golf ball-sized lump of hash. More magazine-wrapped powders and dried mushrooms. Daisy didn't want to leave her brother, but this wasn't her scene. This was a Tim she did not know, engrossed in drug paraphernalia, a sizable pile now on display. Daisy let the grip around his shoulders go. Ode to Charis. Moondance retrieved a cylindrical clay smoking device from the altar. A chillum, Hindu-only men used to smoke charis. Holding up a soft, round brown ball, she continued. A gift from Pavati Rose, from Tit finest cannabis plants, grown high in Tit Himalayas, sacred mountains and source of Tit Holy River Ganga. The lump crumbled easily into the pipe's opening. A piece of cloth was placed over the other end as a filter. Tit Sindhi, troubled by a tit waste of war. Om Shiva. Moondance lit the chillum, took a deep hit, and passed it to Cindy, then Daisy. Of course there was coughing, but the high was smooth, easy, and relaxing. 3. Ode to Dogs and Weed. Lucky didn't attend the markets. She stayed at Molly's side in the warm kitchen, a loyal companion and always happy to greet you. It's freezing out there, Daisy said, rubbing her red palms together, happy to be in the cosy space. Here, take this. David handed her a warm mug of veggie soup. Sit by the fire. She settled onto a small stool. Let's celebrate your success at the market and smoke some of this fine Jamaican weed, said Isaac. Daisy shivered as the cold began to let go. Lucky rubbed against her, inviting her to rub her belly. Her hand slipped into Lucky's warmth and she felt present, reminded to live for the moment. There's a reason dog is God spelt backwards, said David. Dogs and weed make everything better, Tim declared. 4. Ode to Temple Ball. Here, take this, said Popper, passing David a freshly packed bong. It's insane. Temple ball from India. A friend of mine wrapped it in plastic and ate it. Took him days to shit it back out, but the laxative worked. You may see God. Om Shiva. Shalom, said David, bringing the smoking device to his lips. There was a commune for every taste. One for free love, one for those who drank their own urine, and another for Hanuman, the monkey god. One was simply called acid. It's in everything. The boys escaped the confines of Lumen Landing by volunteering at the local co-op, hauling sacks of beans and grains, labouring in exchange for provisions. This helped, but they spent more time on music and partying than work. The trio came alive on Friday nights at the co-op's open mic. Tim thrived under the dim lights, drawing a large crowd every week. The fan club crowded the front row, pressing joints, pills and affection into their hands. The higher Tim got, the harder he performed. Isaac's pulsing rhythms behind him, David's strings shimmering, and Tim himself a shaman channeling fire. Ooh, Pan, Tim sang. Oh, Pan, Moondance echoed, her mouth brushing the same microphone, the breath tangled, sparks flaring between them. Daisy watched. Her concern for her brother's mental health clung heavily. Tim, wild-eyed and sweaty, flinging his arms around Moondance. So high, the weed, the mead, he shouted through the applause, though the applause drowned him out. Moondance wriggled free, searching for Jasper in the crowd. Coming off stage, Moondance tightened the scarf around her neck, but Daisy saw the marks. I get a buzz out of the jealousy. It fires my passion, Moondance explained, pushing Daisy aside as Jasper approached through the crowd. This tense Tim spiralling. Excuse enough for more substances, he leaned into the rock star role. Late-night bar crawls, weekend benders with Isaac and Ziddy. Sometimes David came along for the ride but could never keep up. They raged across communes, afternoon mist, electric storm, donuts in the sage. As Hunter said, midnight's when it gets real. Ha ha! Tim laughed, spinning the love wagon around in circles and dusts. He fought the falls that always came after the gigs. Let's head to the Turquoise Palace, said Ziggy. A load of cocaine washed up on a beach in Malibu. It's being driven here on motorbikes as we speak. Cocaine running through my veins, yelled Isaac. So much less jittery than speed. It's more natural, better frequency, muttered David, yawning in the back seat. Frequency my bullshit radar, said Tim. You need a bolt of cocaine lightning up your butthole. Laughter rippled through the friends. Last Man Standing, Tim blurted. Great name for our band, David added. I love it, Isaac grinned. The Turquoise Palace was a jewellery-making community funded by famous actor. Ziggy supplied the drugs and booze so no one had to party alone, keeping them up and insane for days. At dawn on Monday morning, back at the commune kitchen, Ziggy slouched in an armchair, racking out lines of fine white powder. Tim tried to light the range. Isaac sat at the oak table, wrapped in a blanket, two girls on either side gnawing on their lower lips. A Vietnamese girl, young, was it my shot or his? Not knowing it's killing me, Isaac ranted. Shh! You know the thought experiment Schrodinger's cat, Tim whispered. Schrodinger what? Freedom is letting go. Isaac drummed the table. Tim stood, holding his friend's hand still. Superposition. It's when something exists in more than one state at once, until it's observed. He hesitated, perplexed. So if you didn't actually see it? Isaac stared daggers. You're saying it didn't even happen? No, Tim shook his head. Just that possibility comes before certainty. Things don't settle until seen. Isaac frowned. Weird. Naya told me about the saying, it don't mean nothing. Don't let your mind turn it into something that devours you. Don't keep going over it. Isaac's eyes flashed, the memory in fear. It was a girl. Sorry, I know. Tim reached out, resting his hand on his shoulders. I just see how it tortures you. Isaac's eyebrows raised. Well, Tim, you'd know all about that. Ziggy coughed, nudging the moment along. No more talk of war, Tim added. The fear of constriction stalked him. His tormentors gathered in the shadows of his dreams, waiting to pounce. When the high thinned, the pillow offered its devouring comfort. 6. Ode to Cycles. Heat raced across the plains, and by the afternoon the cooler peaks tugged it into random, restless gusts of wind. The odd cloud flew across the high desert, attempting to gather at the top of the mountain. Instead, they evaporated before accumulating The land screamed to the clash of thunder, while the flies and no-see-ums caused irritation and vexation. The scorching intensity frayed even the calmest nerves. Only when the sun finally slept beneath the horizon did relief arrive. Coolness pouring in with the dark, the buzzing and biting bugs finally resting. The boys returned from town in a merry mood, the boozing temporarily easing their woes. Isaac, David, Popper and Tim saw light shining from Moondance's teepee. Not ready for sleep, they poked their heads through the opening. Moondance sat surrounded by candles, shadows flickering on the fabric of the dwelling. The space smelt of scented smoke. Bare-breasted with a sarong wrapped around her waist, she sat cross-legged on a pillow, with a spread of animal cards laid out before her. At the heart of the layout was the frog card. Her fingers beckoned them. It was all right for them to come in. Sing folks, cool tit rains, quench tit dryness, cleanse tit earth, and let me fill up again. Yea to that, agreed Tim, sitting next to her. It was impossible to imagine that he and Moondance had been at each other's throats earlier that day. She scanned the cards, which helped guide her, giving her clues and answers to questions that echoed around and around in her head. Why did he betray me? How can I heal my heart? What are they telling you today? Asked Tim, blue eyes twinkling. We need rain, she responded. A fairly obvious fact, added Tim. Moondance lit the sage stick and blew the smoke over her body. Cleanse our minds and spirits, she said, closing her eyes, taking a deep breath and singing a long om. The boys looked upon her beauty and were captivated, her skin exquisite in the orange glow of the flames. Moondance bathed in the rays of their admiration.